So, for all of you that didn't go to church today, I am hosting your sermon. I don't know, maybe it's because of the mopping, it's got me fired up. but yeah, I'm taking it upon myself to deliver to you uh, the great news, as they'd say. But I just also want to highlight a couple of things. Um, Firstly, just the whole idea of modernization or where the times are heading now. We see that obviously, probably a large part after COVID, we stopped going to church and probably didn't see the need for that, right? But things like religious institutions, they supplement for primal human needs, primal human um, sort of function. Example being the need to confess, right? In a way, just like our bodies need to be washed every day and sweat builds up, you know, and dirt builds up, and we need to remove it from ourselves with water. So also, even in our minds and our conscience, wherever the conscience sits, right, unembeza, as you'd call it, and we want to have a clean conscience all the time, and that's why in places like church you'd have confessions, you'd have prayers that actually assist in one's spiritual hygiene. Because although we don't have, or we do, but it's not known across the board about how religion connects to just science of the the the, the, the human or metaphysics, let's say. So meta, which is beyond, so beyond physics. That's why I love even the whole idea of Facebook changing from Facebook to Meta because it's just saying beyond. And if you think about it, Facebook or Meta is one of the reasons that Donald Trump became president because they understood human behavior and understood the fear, um, the outcomes of fear, and how that drives um, decision making, how it drives um, focus and attention, and started using, terrorists, words like terrorists, to instill specific mindsets and then offered solutions through Trump's presidency, which is kind of crazy. And there's evidence of that, right? And so, what I'm talking about, or want to talk about, is just the primal need for humans to confess, to let things out. And that's why you see a lot of Facebook posts probably about people telling their deepest, darkest secrets. And of course, they want anonymity, not to be known, because, that's the essence of even confession in church. And we're still going to see a whole lot of this because the human condition is that it wants to be known, it wants to be freed, and just wants, um, yeah, freedom in a sense from itself, but also incorporating. Because now, if you do confess, you feel psychological weight lifting off, you feel an emotional weight lifting off, and you can integrate that experience into your life and think about it in a way that's progressive for yourself as well. And that's why you have things like music as well. Music offers a language for things that we feel and can't necessarily express. Sometimes it's not even the words that they use, it's just the beats, how they take us into specific places. Now, what would be the scientific study of all of this, right? Because there's words for all of this. And so, let's say we take religion out of the equation for most of us who grew up in church or, where Sundays are not for lovers, but Sunday is for church. But now look at culturally and contextually in this day and age, Sunday is for lovers, right? And what does that mean? Does that mean love is replacing religion. And also love in what sense? Because if you think about dating culture and the times right now, we see we see a lot of variances in terms of like what's morally correct, what's um, emotionally correct, and whatever, and what's also widespread in terms of behaviors around dating. You know, which you then say like drinking on Sundays is the new religion, because also outside of just confessions, people want to mingle, people want to speak the same language in terms of like the spiritual, emotional, and mental um, understanding of things, right? And does then Kawashi go about Kawashi on Sunday, chilling with the crew? Does that signify religion? And then to top that off, what do we generally speak about in those settings, and what is consuming most of our attention, right? Kibanyana, right? And generally, so that's kind of interesting, just seeing religion outside of um, the typical or traditional religious sense, in that we congregate, sahlangana, or unites in places like clubs and all of that, and we do it religiously, like over and over, you know, and that becomes who we are in a sense. The type of cultures that we see are representative of the things that we repeat all the time. Just that it's there's certain things that we do not want to bucket under certain names because of the moral, or moral assumptions or implications that involves. But in terms of principles, they are all the same, which I find really interesting. Also, a biggest thing, which was really interesting to me, is just realizing that for religion or Christianity as well, in a way, because I'll speak about that, is in a way poetry. It's in a way fairy tale, because if we look around in our natural world right now, do we see a snake speaking to anyone at all? Do we see angels and whatever, right? And I'm really fascinated about this whole idea of closing doors. Kidding. But I'm really fascinated about this idea of um, declarative knowledge, as in, like, I declare that Jesus is Lord, but I do not have the evidence for it, of course, right? It's declarations. So, also, the next step of knowledge is procedural knowledge. Like, I know the procedure to get the Holy Spirit, I know the procedure of that, to have the fruits of the Spirit. I know the procedure to um, confession, and so unburdening myself from sin in a way, right? And then comes conditional knowledge, where that just happens um, automatically. When something is automatic, like driving, you can just wake up and just drive, you know. And you don't, sometimes people do it drunk because it's conditional knowledge, it's conditioned in them. And I see a break or a disconnection, a dissonance in terms of like religious knowledge now, because everyone is declaring, but hardly the the evidence is there. It's not there, you know, because we as people live in so many pockets. I like to consider it as like a pizza, where we live in a political sense, we live in an economic sense. I'm a worker, I'm a brother, I'm a boyfriend, I am so many things all in one, and then now to fit a universal perspective of who Samuela is and all of these things is really difficult. And even religiously, um, it's so interesting that we might have to let go of certain things that we've held on to for the longest time for survival, and understand that the operating system needs to be updated in a way because evidence points to something else. Um, yeah, so why is this important? Why am I talking about this? I don't know. I think I found it interesting that the language isiZulu really refers to things in a natural state. You say "Imbila yasolumsila," like a dasi doesn't have a tail because it was procrastinating, or like those figures of speech based on nature. And I think it's just within our nature to share knowledge, share understanding of stuff, and even um, analyze the stuff or analyze reality with versus ideologies and come to a specific integration that is more aligned with nature, more aligned with the reality of things. And yeah, this is my attempt for that, and just understanding the world that I'm living in. And as they say, "Muntu muntu ngabantu." So um, you might expand my knowledge around certain things I'm interested in. And um, I don't care also about being wrong or right. I just care about being in tune. Yup.